She doesn't even go here.
I'm bi, actually.
Excuse me. Could the ugly, untalented gays please report to the principal's office?
Hi, I'm Kurt Hummel, and I'll be auditioning for the role of kicker.
Hello! Welcome in, you guys. Thank you guys for coming in, joining our little chat.
Yes.
We have another finale to talk about.
Yeah.
Which, ultimately kind of encompasses the season as a whole. That is, of course, The Last of Us Season 2 has finally concluded. And, regardless about how we felt about it throughout, it has certainly been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So,
And
a
we're
lot
at
of
the end,
highs,
for now.
definitely some lows. I'm very excited to get in and kind of talk about what that ride was like with everyone.
Yeah.
So, please, as we start raising some of these questions, we'd love to know what your answers are and how you feel about them. So please feel free to kind of chat along with us. We'd love the input, especially because I would say there's a lot of division here, but I think we'll see a lot of similar answers, I think, especially towards the end, and maybe even specifically this finale. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to break that down with everyone. But before we get into that,
How are the vibes?
the vibes.
I'll be honest. I didn't like the finale. But I'm definitely not alone. If you go on Twitter, you will find a lot of people talking about how they did not like the finale. And I'm worried on more just like more than just like where the story's going, but also what it means for the audience, what it means, like what changes they're making from the game. Even if they adapted the game 100% true to content, would it also have lost its audience? Was there a way to do the story and not lose its audience? And I don't know if there's an answer to that, but I am excited to break it down and, talk about what I think went wrong and what I've heard from people who have played the games and know more about it than I do, the changes they made and, how everybody kind of feels about them. So, yeah, I mean, if nothing else, we don't have to talk about it for another at least 2 years.
Indeed.
Which is
Crazy.
maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing, but that's the reality. So, whatever. How do you feel?
How do I feel? I feel... I don't know. I'm very mixed, actually. It's because I remember the season was coming out, and I was very, surprised by it, because it, snuck up on me, because I didn't realize White Lotus was going to end, and then...
The next week.
The next week, we go right into this, and I loved that first season. And it was a really fun time. I think it's actually one of the first shows we kind of watched...
Together?
As, a big friend group.
Yeah.
So I think we watched a couple shows at that point together, but it was more like a me and you thing.
Yeah.
It was the first show that, and you and my entire, our entire friend group sat down and watched. So it was always a very unique thing during that time period.
Literally never forget. I can perfectly envision the scene where the clicker has the little tendrils. I know exactly where I was sitting. I know exactly what angle I was looking at the TV of. I know exactly the layout of everything that happened. It's ingrained in my brain. And then now we're here. So I'm interested to see if in 2 years we look back at this and remember anything from this show. I'm sure we will, at least a little bit. I don't know, how we're going to feel about it in 2 years, but
Sure.
yeah, the first season was really good. And, the second season, it's not like it was all bad.
Yeah,
it
it definitely has some high points.
Yeah, I agree.
And,
So,
and I don't know. And I think even the low points, I think my take on it is that I don't hate what would be called the lower points, but it just shouldn't be the only thing the show is.
Yeah.
It's missing half of the narrative.
Yeah.
And you feel that throughout the entire middle to end of this season.
Yeah.
And so we'll get into the specifics of that momentarily. So.
Because in the game, there's two perspectives going on.
Yep. And they switch back and forth, correct?
I think so, from what I hear. Or they at least do the other perspective first, which is not what happened here.
Correct.
But then I do think at some point we kind of catch up to both. So, but that didn't happen in the show. We got one perspective, and I guess we're caught up on one person's side, and then the other person we're obviously teased to get next season. But we'll see how that turns out. I'm a little nervous about how that's going to play out. And, if have they already lost their audience? What does that mean for, do they have any more audience to lose after that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a whole thing, because we know episode 2 was very divisive. I think still, ultimately, I don't think it completely gutted out its audience. I think it
Yeah.
obviously lost, I would say, a good fraction.
Yeah, I don't know if did you see the stuff about it got, the finale? This finale was, half the viewership, 55%, I think, of last season's finale.
I'd believe that.
Yeah.
Because
And
I
it
even
was,
looked, I was curious to see if the Rotten Tomatoes scores had changed at all. Because I remember
Oh,
when we
yeah.
first started the season after episode 1,
Mhm.
and it already got hate bombed.
Yeah.
Which, say what you will about this season, episode 1 is
I liked
one of the
episode
higher
one.
points.
Yeah.
So,
So
immediately that being at a 37 is okay, can we really trust this?
Mhm.
But then I looked, it's a little, I want to say I checked and it's at a 35. So it's still in that range.
Yeah.
But I checked between the 2 seasons. This season has 5,000 plus
Mhm.
audience reviews.
Mhm.
The first season had 10,000.
Oh wow. Yeah. That is definitely different. I definitely feel like it was more of a moment to watch The Last of Us with the first season. And I will say, you said earlier that it really snuck up on you, and it really snuck up on me too. And I wonder if a lot of people had that same experience, because I don't feel like we had all that much of marketing.
I honestly can't even think of any marketing I've seen for it.
I mean, I
Granted,
think
we don't
I
have cable or anything, so we don't have typical
Yeah.
channels. But any advertising I've seen for it have been ads for Max in general.
Yeah, and then I saw maybe a couple posters with the date, but I don't know if I even ever saw a trailer, which is kind of crazy.
I remember
might
there was
have
a
seen
trailer,
one.
but I knew I wasn't. I wasn't in a rush to watch it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I eventually did, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. So, I do think I saw one, because then we saw stuff with Joel, and I kind of remember bits and pieces about that. So yeah, maybe I did, but I don't know. It just feels weird the way they have treated this season, even outside of the story.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I don't know. That doesn't give me confidence in a season 4, although I'm happy about that. So
Yeah.
I know we're getting a season 3. And then I hope they really crack down on this is the last one. Don't hold out for season 4, and because you're not getting one, basically.
Yeah, I mean, even just looking at the viewership numbers, you have lost half your audience. Whether
Yeah.
that is the show's fault or the way it
Yeah.
was advertised or whatever, you've already lost a large part of your audience for what was
Yeah.
a phenomenon the first time around. So
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if something similar happened with the game, because I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't, because it is so talked about, the second game. But I know it's also just as divisive with people's opinions on it, if not more so than the show. I don't know, but because I wasn't there when it happened. So I don't really know. But I do know you either loved it or hated it, and then they adapted it and made changes that a lot of people, just watching the show and the people who have played the game and are now watching the show didn't like. So
yeah, it's interesting that they kind of lose the
No.
audience that was on board with the second game.
Yeah.
That is a great point.
Yeah, because maybe you should have just adapted your second game and known what you were getting into, instead of making changes and now alienating everyone.
Yeah,
Maybe,
It's
essentially.
not them doing the Disney problem.
Yeah, playing both sides in a way.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but I don't know. I kind of want to go into some of the stuff that worked and didn't work later on.
Okay.
So, because I think
Yeah.
there's a lot to talk about,
Mhm.
and I think maybe pinpointing maybe some of the things we would have excluded
Okay.
would be interesting.
Yeah. You want to talk about this specific episode first, and then kind of talk about
Yeah,
overall show?
I think that's going to be the best way to go. So, you unlike some other times, I have not put my pros and cons list into words. So, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So I'm gonna start with the pro, because I only have one and everything else is a con. So
Okay.
sorry.
I could add a couple things to that.
And I still might. This is just kind of what I pulled from my brain and just remembering what happened. The one thing I actually did kind of like, which I've seen a lot of differing opinions on online, is something that happens between Ellie. Do you want to just get into spoilers? I don't know if we're gonna be able to. There's a lot of spoilery stuff this episode.
Sure, let's go for it. So
Okay.
I'm so down.
Yeah, so sorry. There's
you have
a
been
lot
warned,
that
and we have a lot to
happens.
talk about anyway. So I
Yeah.
think we just get into it. So
Okay.
we're gonna get straight into spoilers for the finale and the overall season
Whole
of
show.
The Last of Us season 2. So you have been warned. Starting now, we are not going to be holding back anything.
Yeah. So in that case, because I was looking at my pros and cons and I was like, whoa, all of those are probably spoilers, actually.
Right.
Anyways, so I actually did like the confrontation between Ellie. Well, not the confrontation. It was more like the aftermath of the confrontation between Ellie and Mel. So when Ellie goes to the aquarium expecting to, or wanting to find Abby, she actually finds Owen and Mel, and she's pointing a gun at them. She's asking, you know, like, where's Abby? They're claiming they don't know, and she sees a map. I think they say something like she hasn't been here in a while or something like that. We have no idea. But they're looking at a map, and so she's thinking maybe, you know, like, I need one of you to come towards me, point on the map where she is, and I want the other person to then also come and point to the same spot. Like, it better be the same spot,
Yeah.
which I thought was a really cool
Well,
line.
that's a thing Joel did
Yeah.
in the season 1.
Yeah, so I did see somebody compare that to Joel, and I think that's pretty cool. And especially if they're going to go for the angle of, you know, the cycle of violence, like having those connections are really, really important. So then Owen, for whatever reason, and we'll get into that later, decides to pull a gun on Ellie because that's going to work out well. It doesn't. She shoots him, and then it's revealed that the bullet that went through his neck also happened to graze Mel. Don't know how that happened. Doesn't happen in the
Completely
game.
nicked the artery.
Yeah, does not happen in the game whatsoever. I'll have to kind of read about what exactly happens in the game, but from what I've read, she's like brutally murdering both of them, like wanting to murder both of them. She's not hesitant to pull a trigger, like.
Because I heard it was spoiled for me that she kills Mel and that Mel is pregnant.
Oh,
So-
I didn't know that. I did
so
not.
I did know that happens, and I figured that was going to be the end. Like the season, if
Oh.
we're gonna cut this story somewhere, I figured that was gonna be
Yeah.
like oh Ellie, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And look at me nailing it.
Yeah.
But you know, I did get the impression that she was actively trying to kill Mel.
Yeah, in the game.
Yes.
Yeah. And although in the game, from what, again, everything we say about the game is just from what we hear, she still does not know that Mel is pregnant. However, she is like, brutally murdering her. It's not like an accident. She's not even hesitant to pull the trigger on Owen, much less like both of them. I don't even know if she has a gun or if she has something else that she brutally kills him with. I have no idea. But it's a lot more intense in the game, apparently. And, you know, it's hard because a lot of what I read of her... Are you okay?
Yeah, I just knocked the mic.
Okay.
My bad.
So a lot from what I read about her in the game is that she kind of like flips the switch a lot sooner than Nora, and she's like violent for a lot of people. She doesn't just kill Abby's circle. She kills anybody in her way, kind of like in the game, even in the show where Joel kills the entire hospital, not just, you know, like anybody who stands in his way, he kills them. But in the game, apparently, he kills even more people, and Ellie kills a lot more people in Seattle. It's supposed to more mirror each other, and even if Joel has less in the game, he still has a decent amount in the hospital in the show, and I feel like Ellie is still not matching that.
Indeed.
And she's definitely not matching the level of, like, violence towards anyone she comes across. It's just, so far, I mean, as far as I've seen, she's really just killed the main group so far. And even that, even with, you know, Nora was purposeful because Nora was being cruel. But Owen and Mel, like, I mean, it was because Owen pulled out the gun and then Mel was a complete accident.
Yeah.
So it's hard when you're, like, just completely not doing what she was in the game.
Yeah, I agree that it really dilutes the idea of what you're going for by trying to, like, have her be rootable, but also not on the level at the game to even make that comparison valid.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what would, in my mind, probably make that the story of Game 2 much better, because it blurs the lines. It doesn't make it a clear Ellie's good, Abby's bad, it makes it, oh, like we see what violence can do to somebody because we loved Ellie and she was such like a sweet kid, and then now she's brutally murdering anybody who gets in her way because of vengeance. Not even against them, just one person. It's like this path of destruction. But that's not happening here, and so you completely lose that message. I wonder if it's because they're worried that people would hate Ellie
That's what
if she did all that.
Because we talked about how it really feels like this season needed to have Abby and Ellie's story happening at the same time and jumping back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, I think Ellie goes, like, that whole plot line with Ellie goes through some interesting points. They aren't, like, super, like, big and flashy that would, like, warrant an HBO episode.
Yeah.
But I feel like most of it was important.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you have Abby's plotline happening at the same time and you're developing some kind of connection with her as an audience member, and you can do the more exciting stuff there, where it's like she's at war, you're meeting all of these new people, learning about the characters in her ensemble,
Yep.
and seeing what made them come here and do this, and why the wolf was formed, and more about why the Seraphites are such a problem and how that all started. They hint towards how the Seraphites were formed this entire season. And by the finale, we still know nothing about it.
Yeah, not at all. And that's what's really weird is in the game, from what I hear, the first time we meet Abby is when she kills Joel, and we don't know why she kills Joel. Because she doesn't give the speech, so we have no idea. And Ellie doesn't know until, I don't know how the timeline goes. Somebody was saying, like, Ellie doesn't know why Joel did what he did until later, but they still have the porch scenes. So I'm wondering how that works. I might have to read up on that. Because they were saying, you know, in the show, Abby and Ellie have that confrontation where, you know, Abby's like, you know, I gave you freedom or something like that, or like a life, and you wasted it or something like that, and pretends like to shoot her. Obviously, we know she doesn't because she's the main character. But I'll also talk about the editing of that scene a little later. But, and you know, Ellie's saying, like, no, like, you killed Joel because of this. I know why he did that. I know he was, like, he killed your father and he did it for me. I'm the one you want. And I was reading that people didn't like that scene because Ellie's not supposed to know that, I guess. I don't know. I'll have to read into that because I'm like, but there's the porch scene. Although, in the game, you don't see the porch scene until almost the end of the game. So.
But even timeline, that would have already happened.
Yeah, that's why I was confused reading that. I might have read that wrong. I don't know. Or maybe there was like I don't know.
To be fair, if Abby doesn't give her speech saying that her dad died in that hospital, which, honestly, was Dina even awake to hear that?
No, because she was passed out pretty early.
Interesting. So how does... Oh, because Nora explains it to her.
Nora explains what?
Nora says that, like, Joel killed her dad, and that's why they went after her. So maybe that she just says less in the game. I mean, clearly, because that's when it flashes back and we see the flashback episodes, which doesn't happen in the game until much later. So I would assume it's probably there is the difference.
Yeah. And then you find out, like, I'm pretty sure right after she kills Joel, you are from Abby's perspective, and that's when you go through her story. But we haven't done any of that here. Not a single thing, because that's going to start in season 3. They teased that, where we're going to have Abby's perspective. So, which, you know, I've been wanting, but now I'm like, is it too late? Like, have we gotten too much?
Like, it is very important to this overall show.
It is, yeah.
But it's not the selling point of an entire season.
Yeah,
like,
that's what makes me worried. I feel like
a huge problem.
That's one big reason I feel like they should have just done one longer season, because then you can maybe do alternating episodes, and that, you know, you have your whole story in that season. I feel like split up, neither of them really works, because they're not supposed to. They're supposed to be like almost like parallels to each other, of like, see how this cycle of violence happens, and, you know, does someone break the cycle, and what happens if they don't? Like, so I don't know. That's going to be very interesting. I'm happy to get the other half of the story, But
in 2
I don't know.
years,
Yeah,
and with the note it's landing on, that's
Mhm.
going to be so rough to get your audience back.
that is. And I mean, what is your marketing gonna look like? All
Hey, remember the
Abby?
guy that killed your favorite character in the show?
Yeah.
She's the main character.
Yeah,
now.
she's the main character, and this season's mostly going to be about her. And because I've already read that Bella Ramsey's not going to be in season 3 much, which I mean makes sense if it's not her story.
That's what you're doing.
But like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
But then is your show even The Last of Us at that point? Like,
Yeah.
I understand Abby's a big character, but in both games,
Mhm.
like, you're there to see Joel and Ellie. And
Yeah.
even with the idea that Joel leaves the second game very early on,
Mhm.
like, that doesn't change that that's the reason people bought the game.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it just all goes
And then
back to
especially
the.
if you haven't put in the effort to make Abby a character you want to know more about.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I think the idea that they casted someone that I think most people feel positively about,
Mhm.
not necessarily even in this role,
Mhm.
is like the only selling point for there being a season with her leading it. And
Yeah.
like, you know, people like her, but there's a decent amount of people who don't even like her in the role.
No.
I'm not necessarily one of them. I think her role could have worked
Mhm.
if we saw more of her before she became the main character.
Yeah. If they actually bothered to give her any lead up, an introduction, and maybe get some people intrigued in her story before you try to sell an entire season's worth of her.
Yeah, it's just a bad idea on paper and in actualization.
Yeah. Well, back to the pro. I got way off there. But I mean, that was a good conversation and naturally, just flowed. But back to Ellie and Mel. In the game, obviously, because Ellie is purposely and brutally killing them, she doesn't go, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, and then realize she's pregnant and further freak out. She kills them, and then that's when it's her moment of, oh my gosh, what have I done? She's pregnant, and I'm just now realizing that. So I don't know how it plays out from there in the game. Maybe Mel's already like dead before she realizes it. At least in the show, she's not. She has, 30 more seconds or so. But I really did like that scene between the two of them where Mel is like, you have to take it out. You have to take it out. And like just both of them, that performance was really good from both those actresses. So yeah. And that scene when she hasn't even made a single incision and she's like, did you take it out? Did you get it? I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
It's brutal out here.
Ooh, that was
a really great scene.
It was, yeah. And I have seen people complain about that, which I can understand if you don't like that, they're having Ellie be more soft.
I like that scene, but I can
but-
understand, like, it doesn't, like, the whole point in, like, hearing them talk about the episode,
Yeah.
it's like, and here's the point where she knows that she went too far, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
But
but
it was an accident.
this wasn't
though.
the part that she was intended. This,
Yeah.
like, shooting Owen in the frickin' throat was.
Yeah.
But also,
But
you
even
know,
then, that's because he was stupid and grabbed a gun, even though he knew that
he
Mel
had
was
one
pregnant.
pointed right at her.
Yeah.
Him.
I was like, you know that Mel's pregnant right behind you, and you're not even going to try to, move out of the way or move her out of the way before you try something like that? That's crazy. Crazy. You could have just done that. I don't know. That
There were
felt
better
crazy
ways to
me.
do it, and he did not take it.
No.
Which is also crazy, because I heard that supposedly Owen was a character that, like, people really liked in the second game.
Yeah, me too.
So it's very crazy that this is, like, the most we've seen of him.
Yeah. There's also a character, I forgot his name, which is probably good anyways, because it's spoilers because it hasn't happened yet. I don't know if it will at this point. But there's a character that is really, really, their story is really closely intertwined with Abby's. And we haven't seen any, well, I mean, we've barely seen Abby, so I guess it makes sense we haven't seen that other person either.
Mm-hmm.
But I am wondering, because I don't know if it's like a love interest or what it is and why it contributes so much to her story. But I hear people like him, and he has a lot to do with Abby's story. So I'm interested to see who they cast for that. Maybe they try to cast another person everybody knows and likes. Maybe. And say, hey, it's going to
We'll
be
see.
their story.
It's going to be crazy to see who they can get to join the show now.
Yeah.
Like,
Ugh, that's so true.
love Gail, they would not be able to get Catherine O'Hara for season 3 if she wasn't
I
signed up
don't-
for season 2.
No, I don't think so. That will be very interesting.
They got so much more talent this season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's crazy that they just kind of ran that into the ground.
Yeah.
Like everyone who was added here did great, but the plot structure,
Mm-hmm.
it's just not there, and it's not. It's weak. It's very weak,
It is weak. I agree.
and I feel like scene to scene, it has some like really strong scenes,
Mm-hmm.
and it plays like really strong, quiet scenes. I think
Mm-hmm.
throughout, but it like peaks at like intense and extreme scenes
Mm-hmm.
like really early on.
Yeah.
So like, and like people don't tune into a show every week for
Mm-hmm.
really great quiet stuff and
Yeah.
quiet moments. I think those are very
Mhm.
important regardless of your project,
Yeah.
but especially in something like this. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, it feels like a lot of these episodes towards the middle to end, the selling point is like, oh, look at this quiet moment they share, and she says this one line, and it's like,
Mhm.
cool, this is an HBO show, man.
Yeah.
Like, this used to be like Game of Thrones, and like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we had wall attack and dragons, and
Yeah.
you know, this isn't that, but you know, remember this is also a zombie show.
Yeah.
And there's like a zillion zombies that are supposed to be attacking them. Like, you'd
When's
forget
the
this
last-
was a zombie show.
Yeah. When's the last time we've even seen a zombie?
That was whenever Ellie got bitten. No, whenever
Oh,
they went
almost
into
when
the,
Jesse. When Jesse got there.
saved them.
Jesse saved them.
And then they went down and then Ellie went to like that floor in the hospital where they were stuck in the wall. And they were like,
Right. Yeah.
But even those scenes aren't good because they aren't set up good. Like, it's a Jesse Deus Ex Machina where it's like, oh, cool, now you find us the one
Yeah.
time where we die if you didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, show.
Cool. Sometimes it is like this happened because it's a TV show, and then sometimes it's like this. I don't know. This did not need to happen, but it did. But it did because it had to. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
a way
kinda
you
lame.
make things happen in like a good way. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting looking at like movie sequels where it's like, so we're going into a sequel of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this plot happening now instead of like forever ago? Is it
Yeah.
like, oh, they finally like activated this on accident
Mm-hmm.
when trying to do that, and that's why this villain is attacking them now.
Yeah.
And I love when they find a way to be like, or like think Shrek 2. Like, you know, the first one, fall in
Mm-hmm. Great
love, meet
example.
the princess.
Yeah.
What kicks off the second movie, and why does it start there?
Yeah.
Oh, it's after the honeymoon, and you're meeting the parents. A clear thing that happens
Yeah.
after the events of the first movie,
Yeah.
and could not have happened without the first movie. And like, and then there's a lot of things here where it's just like, oh, we run into this like blocked off room in the hospital that clearly you are supposed to avoid,
Yeah.
and you ran to like the one dead end that leads to it. Why? Because we had to be down there.
Yeah. Kind of seems lame. Pretty lame.
Yeah, it's just it's very lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the plotting of it is lazy. The scenes are great. And
Yeah.
I think honestly the scenes are carried a lot by the amazing actors they have.
I totally
I
agree.
think you can. I think honestly, a lot of the show's weakness is with that. I would say the script is definitely at its weakest without Joel,
Mm-hmm.
and I think with. And I would say I think Ellie and Dina's like roles and like their scenes are written well, but when any other character is on, it feels like the actors are doing so much more heavy lifting.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's hard because I wonder if it feels that way in the game. Because I also know, plenty of the gamer people are like, there's so much better acting in the game, and I don't know. Well, it's hard because it's not fully people, but it is like, voice acting, and that's really impressive when done well. I don't know. I actually I don't have a PlayStation, so I'm not playing the game anytime soon, guys, but I would love to get one someday and play the game because I'm just like really interested from a story perspective how that goes and what I would feel about that versus the show. I will probably get one before the new season comes out. Let's put it that way. So,
Oh my god!
Long time
you'll get one
away.
in the next 3 years.
yeah. Yeah. What do you mean, like 5 years?
Yeah, it'll be great,
Gosh. Anyways.
man. Back to pros, because I feel like we keep jumping the conversation away from those. I will say, I love the visuals of, like, the water here. Like, the
Yeah.
boat, whenever she, like, goes to, like, steal a boat, and then she sees the two people in the dock, and she's about to shoot them, and then the boat lights start turning on, and there's, like, over 100 people,
lot of people.
about to watch that crime she was about to commit.
Yeah.
Loved that little bit. And then I loved the scene of her, like, going over the water and, like, seeing the city with the storm and lightning in the background. Loved that visual a lot.
That's a good point.
And then, like, seeing them film that set piece looked really
yeah.
awesome.
I liked that they actually filmed it with water. That's cool.
Yeah, I really liked towards the end in the behind the scenes seeing, like, the camera person jump, like, be thrown off the boat with
Yeah.
Bella Ramsey.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny. But
That'd be kind of fun.
it's interesting because I feel like this show, like all HBO shows, is filmed almost to perfection. Like,
Yeah.
the quality of the show is, like, of the production of the show is great because that is what HBO does and will always deliver.
I mean, even Game of Thrones, even season 8 had a lot of iconic visuals. Say what you want about the story, and it's valid. But there's a reason everybody uses that one short clip of Daenerys and the dragon. I mean, like, that's awesome. So, yeah, say what you want, but the visuals are on point. So,
And that's, I don't know. People talk about, like, Disney being a machine. I think HBO can also definitely be labeled as a machine with the quality that they always put out.
yeah.
I will say in this regard, it's a positive. I
Yes.
think there are positives to the Disney and Marvel machines as well. And in this case, you know, it's just the quality of what you're trying to do will always look visually great. It will always look visually interesting when done right. And someone's not, like, completely throwing it off with some off-kilter vision of what they want it to look like.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I agree.
and that is all throughout this show. I think if you were if you never heard about the game, never looked at the show online, I think there are some people who could watch this show and be like, well,
Nothing else. It
I'll
looks
be here for
really
next
pretty.
season.
Yeah.
Like, I can see there being people who aren't looking at the subtext at all and being like, well, that wasn't season 1, but I watched it and I'll
Yeah.
remember this and I'll be here for season 3, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe,
So-
but I don't know. I feel like the structure is
I'm
still
nervous.
like, I feel like even with that, I say that, but I can't imagine someone being so cool with, like, even without the context, like, being like, this is good. This is what you needed. Like, it just feels so flawed.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of complaints about, I don't know his last name, but it's Craig. His name's Craig. Craig
Nealman?
Nealman, maybe? I have
Let
no
me look
idea.
at it. I literally
People
have no
don't like
idea.
him, though. That
Neil
is
Druckmann
for
or
sure.
Craig Mazin?
Oh, okay. Oh. No, Craig Mason, then. Yeah. That's who people are complaining about mostly. I think people are pretty okay with Neil, from what I hear for the most part.
I could have sworn Neil had something recently where people were like, oh.
I don't know.
Because I think there's a reason that we're seeing, because this is the guy we're seeing at the end of all of the, like, behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah.
I think the other, Neil Druckmann is the maker, like, the game creator. And I could have sworn that there was something that came out about him recently that had people not like him. I don't know what it is,
Oh.
so take that with a grain of salt,
No
viewers.
idea.
But I could have sworn I heard something about that. I think it came
I
out
don't know.
decently soon after the first season,
Oh, okay.
I want to say. I
That's
might look at that
interesting.
if you want to talk in a tangent in a little bit, but
Sure.
but it is interesting that the person who, like, made the game isn't the one talking about these characters and their plot lines in season. It's an interesting thing to look at, and why
Something.
the original creator isn't the head voice of what's happening here, I think.
Yeah.
But
It's giving what happened with The Idol, where this woman had a great idea of what to do with the show, and then Sam Levinson came in and was like, I'll help. And then he takes over. And then she, like, quits or gets fired or something, and then it's a horrible show. Because it's nothing like what it was. So, maybe that's what it was giving. Although people didn't like... it's not like it had... The second game has universal love or anything. It certainly has its fans and its haters. For sure.
yeah. I guess honestly that's the biggest pro I have outside of what you said.
Yeah.
I do love that scene. Every other scene here There's that great line about Ellie and her community and how she lost her
Oh,
community.
yeah,
and you
that
think
was
you're better
good.
than me. That's a great scene. Love that scene.
You know what? Somebody needed to shut Jesse up because he was aggravating the
Abby
heck
did.
out of me. Oh. Damn. Okay. Wow.
Something they have in common.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh my god. That's crazy. See, best friends.
They're
Can't we
like,
just
oh my
like-
god, I'm great at shutting Jesse up. I'm just like you. Oh my
You're
god,
just
wouldn't
like
that be
me.
crazy?
That is. Imagine they were casted in Princess and the Pauper. That would be great. And you know what? Mattel. Speaking of, Mattel should look into adapting some of those movies into live action. That would be kind of fun.
Interesting.
What? I mean, they're doing that with everything else these days.
You know, you might be onto something.
know,
there. If you're
like-
already remaking so many, like, you know, original stories,
Mm-hmm.
why not like start teaching kids the classics?
Yeah. Plus, those Barbie visuals need to change. So, and if that means live action, and some live action actually looks better than its animated counterpart for a change, I'll take it.
For some of those, that would be a hard bar to not pass.
No, yeah, and I love those movies, all love, but yeah, also very true. Anyways.
So going down, I know you talked a lot about your cons. Are there any that you didn't get here yet?
Da-da-da. Let's see. Oh, Ellie and Dina's conversation. Also very different in the game. In the game, first of all, Ellie's like beat up and scratched and dirty everywhere, not just her back. Don't even know how that happened to her back. Just happened, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'll rewatch. Maybe I missed something, but I didn't, wasn't that way before she goes and gets kidnapped for like 5 minutes by the Seraphites? Because I was like, maybe it's from that. But then I was like, I thought that happened after that conversation.
Yeah, no, that happened after they had that conversation.
Yeah, so I don't know how that happened, but she was serving face because she had a very clean face and clean hair, perfectly groomed hair. Nothing was wrong. Her back was like scratched up and filthy. I have no idea why. Anyways,
From all the heavy lifting on this show.
I no,
That was
honestly,
Bella
for
Ramsey's
real,
back, not
for real.
Ellie's.
Yeah, exactly. So in the game, it's like all over because she's actually fighting in the game and killing people in the game. Crazy.
Are there actually zombies in the game? Unlike the show?
What? Or does she actually like brutally kill people and go on a path of vengeance? Like, kind
Indeed.
of like the story we're trying to tell here? Yeah. Anyways. So, and in that conversation, she's like really sad, like visibly sad, crying, and Dina's like wrapping her arms around her, comforting her at some points. None of that happens. First of all, who told Bella Ramsey? Because they're too great of an actress to like not do well in that scene. So somebody had to tell her like play the scene like this, because I mean it was like she was dissociating while telling Dina what happened with Joel, and then Dina got really mad. Some people were like, well, she was overwhelmed. I don't know. There were a couple scenes where she looked like pissed, and she's not talking to Ellie. I don't know. And then they were trying to say, like, the showmaker, the show creators or whatever, showrunners, they were trying to say, well, it's like her going through what Ellie went through. I'm like, yeah, but Ellie was mad at Joel because Joel did it. Why would Dina be mad at Ellie because she didn't do it? I mean, I guess, like, Ellie didn't tell her, but how are you going to tell Dina something like that? Why would you trust her with that information at that time? Like, before. Like, way before. And two, then you'd have to tell her you're immune. And, like we got there. But I would also not tell people unless I had to. Because that puts your life in danger. So you can't tell her about Joel without telling her you're immune. And then once she did tell her she was immune, a lot happened. And then eventually she told her. It's not like she waited 2 years and then told her, oh yeah, by the way, this whole adventure we've been on that you volunteered to go on, it's actually a lie because of this.
And it is interesting combining, because there was that original moment they added where it was like, what was your first kill? And she was like, oh, I killed the person who came after my family. And Joel was my family. So I'm going to be tracking these people down to the ends of the earth.
Yep.
Because that's what I do for family.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you really have that line and then be upset when it's like the context is, oh, well, people didn't randomly do this and there was a reason that happened.
Yeah.
And it's like, does that change things? There's a conversation to be had there about
Sure.
if it does.
It's
But
okay
then
to
you
be
have
overwhelmed,
to have that
too.
conversation out loud as a show. Not even
Yeah.
necessarily like in that moment.
Yeah.
But in order for her to react the way that she is, it's like,
It's like she's mad. I'm like, well, Joel was also killing them to protect Ellie. It wasn't exactly the same thing. It was way more like, not revenge, but it was doing it to protect somebody else. So it's, I don't know. You can be overwhelmed. I don't think you're allowed to be mad, in my opinion. Or at least we need to have a conversation if you're mad and not just like stare off into the distance.
the idea that it's like the immediate, it's like, now we're going home feels like a lot. Like, it feels
Yeah.
like that should be like a further point into the discussion of like, oh, why didn't you tell me? And have, oh, well, I couldn't tell you without letting that know. And
Yeah.
like, it feels like there was more that needed to happen with that scene if you are going
Yeah.
to flesh it out or change it like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why they chose to do that. I don't know if they know why they chose to do that because they didn't do anything with that.
Yeah, I don't
Didn't
know.
go
Maybe it's
anywhere.
maybe another part of it is like with the budget and like how much it would cost to have her go on a killing spree like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know, man. Well, and it's frustrating because from my understanding, Game Dina is like she doesn't have that conversation of the first person I killed
Yes.
to
I
have
heard
that like yeah. So she is way less like she's just there for Ellie. She's not really there for Joel, from my understanding. So it would be much easier for that version of Dina to be like, okay, we're going too far. You're killing a bunch of people. Like this is out of hand. But show Dina's like, I would hunt them to the ends of the earth. So then, but then she's mad, and I feel like it's a lazy excuse to like switch Dina to where they need her to be.
Yeah.
I'm like, but you're the ones who caused that problem, and now you have a lazy solution to that.
Ellie literally wouldn't have gotten this far or this fast if it wasn't for you who was going to do
Yeah.
something like this anyways.
Yeah, you volunteered to go, and then you said you very much want to be here. Like even if Ellie wasn't here, she might have been here. So she's very like, I want to be here, and I will be here for as long as we need to be here. And then like 2 episodes later, she's like, let's go home. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's a big shift.
Anyways,
Your next point, also
Yeah.
valid.
Jesse was so insufferable in this episode. And I kind of liked Jesse. I kind of liked that he pushed against Ellie a little bit and what in her beliefs.
I liked him a
and-
lot until
Yeah.
this last episode. I hate that they made the one episode where he's like aggressively unlikable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think characters can have that like that one-off thing. I think
Yeah.
especially in this circumstance, I think it's valid for him to be upset with Abby.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether
Ellie.
it's right Ellie. and Abby,
And
let's be
Abby,
honest.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Hey, that was mean, Abby.
That was like really not cool.
But I think it's very real to have that feeling
Mm-hmm.
and then, you know, to find out that, oh, it's a good thing I came. Apparently I have a kid that I protected. Good
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to know. And like being pissed in that element of like, cool, I could have like lost that element of my life that's now
Yeah.
in the potential future.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish, and like, while so valid to be mad, they also, and I know you said you didn't like the things he was saying. I think for me, it's the way he was saying
Yeah.
it. Because I think there is,
He's like being a jerk about it, not just like someone who was upset.
yeah.
It was almost like he was being immature about it
I would agree.
in his approach.
It feels like there's
I don't know.
an unhealthy method of like, almost like the patriarchy where it's like, like, hey, my wife,
Yeah.
or my baby mama
Yeah.
ain't gonna do this, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, you're like 12, so well, okay, you're 18 at least,
Whoa,
But-
whoa.
but it's like
Yeah.
you're not nearly mature enough to be like saying these lines with
Yeah.
like your chest the way you are.
Yeah, it definitely, and I appreciate that Ellie called him out on feeling like he was like perfect and like
On
you
the
know,
higher, on the having a high ground over her.
Yeah, because that's how it came off to me, and that was really annoying and frustrating because I feel like that's just not a fair comparison. And I also totally rolled my eyes when he was like, now I'm a father, I can't die. First of all, the internet hated that line because they were like, ooh, that's awkward, because they knew that he was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
I also knew he was going to die. I hated that scene. Well, that's also valid. But I hated that scene because it was giving, like, you can't get an abortion because I'm the father and I have just as much of a say. And I was like, but no, because at the end of the day, you're not carrying the baby in your womb. The baby's not in your body. So actually, no. She was like, I'm just as important as Dina, so I can't die either. I'm like, no, because if she dies, the baby dies. If you die, nothing happens.
I don't know. I think they were going more along the line of, like, I was cool dying until I found out this, so now I can't be the noble sacrificer or whatever.
Yeah.
Either way, like, great in theory, you gotta work on that line delivery. Or what that line looks like.
I
Because
feel like
the way that drafted line was not it.
No, I feel like it gave me that impression because of the way he was delivering all of his other lines of being like on the high ground and thinking he's more, morally good and important than he actually is. I feel like that's why I just assumed that's what he meant in that scene, and I was like, eye roll. That's so annoying. Anyways, and then he died.
He died, and I will
R.I.P.,
say
I
I
guess.
did not know he does, and that one got me.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was saying, that I was so annoyed that the gamers, I didn't know until like last Sunday, and everybody was posting about it, being like, Jesse, don't go through that door. I was like, you couldn't have waited a week? Really? I understand Joel, because that's like a huge, huge death because it's a fan favorite. And, that's like something you've been thinking about since the first season was announced. So obviously way longer time to like have to not spoil that. So I understand. Jesse, I didn't hear a peep about that until the last Sunday. I was like, what the heck, guys? Okay, fine.
Cool that we all chose to be uncool today.
Yeah, I was like, you could have waited a week. It hasn't even happened yet. Why are you talking about it? Anyways.
Ooh, I like your next point of Ellie's confrontation with the Seraphites. You're talking about when she like crashed onto that island.
Yeah, first of all, that was so fast. It's like crash, kidnap, strung up, something's happening, leaving.
Run!
Let's just leave her here and not like slit her throat real quick because she's the main character and can't die.
See,
Bye.
it was really interesting seeing them talk about that at the end, where it's like, in the original draft of the game, we had this moment happen, and we felt like it didn't belong in the game, but we felt like we could put it in here, and it's like, well
maybe
spoiler
there's
alert,
a reason.
there was a reason it was cut out.
Yeah.
Because why the heck are we here?
Okay. From what I've read, and I'm not going to be too spoilery, and I'm not even 100% sure what happens, but from what I understand, they're trying to do a parallel between her and Abby. I don't know if Abby gets strung up by the Seraphites. I don't know that. That's why I'm like, this is not a spoiler because I have no idea. But there is a reason in that scene where she confronts Ellie that she has burns on her neck. We'll just put it that way.
Interesting.
I don't know why. Well, I don't know who does it, but I'm pretty sure that's why. That's what I read of why they wanted to include it, to make that parallel. But nothing was said, in my opinion, in that scene. And so what are you saying with the parallel? If I don't understand. You know what I mean?
I remember them saying something along the lines
We
of,
already
like,
knew they were scary.
she was like trying to like stand up for that Seraphite kid earlier, and then here she is being like strung up by the
I
same
did read
people.
that. Mm-hmm.
And but did that matter?
Yeah, it's like
I don't
they're
know,
still
man.
scary and doing some pretty bad stuff. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I wonder if Ellie defends the kid in the game, or if that's in it at all.
I don't know. It feels like one of those things that probably wasn't. I would bet probably not.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was leaning towards.
But, and then you had that.
So, when Abby's like, I gave you this life and you wasted it, and it like cuts to black, and then there's it's like a gunshot sound, just such a basic sound. I mean, I know there's, only so much you could do, but it's literally like they they just downloaded it from a free sound software and just like plopped it in. First of all, why did that happen? That was goofy, and a lot of the internet is also thinking that as well. They were like, that was really stupid.
Was really dumb. I cannot lie.
Yeah, and also a lot of people were pointing out, and I don't totally disagree or agree. I don't know. I think it's an interesting point. They said a fun cut for the whole season, like the end of the season, could have been when she raises the gun to Ellie, but then it just cuts to black and there's no sound, so you don't know what happens.
Better than a gunshot.
Yeah, I don't think you needed the gunshot. I wouldn't have minded if it ended there, I guess, especially since I wasn't totally satisfied with where it ended here either. And then but it doesn't end there. It cuts to
3 days earlier.
Yeah, and then Abby's like leaning and looking at like a football field or something.
Yeah, I guess it was a football field because it was bigger than
it was
like baseball.
pretty big. Yeah. And there's like a lot of.
It was like a garden place because like it's a field where you can actually like grow stuff out of, and we're not gonna be playing football. I actually really like the idea and design of that a lot.
Me too.
However, it's happening at a moment I did not care about.
Yeah. So that is a good point. Is I didn't mind that scene, but it does feel like jarring after that embarrassing editing of her with the gunshot. I don't know, man.
It's one of those things where it's like, and then we're gonna have her like you're gonna have her pointing the gun at her, and then it's gonna cut to black, and you're gonna hear a gunshot, and it's gonna be really crazy, and people are gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening?"
What?
And then the camera's gonna open up, and it's 3 days early, and it's like, so you just like are living on the nose,
right? No, and that's also another complaint is everyone's saying like the gamers are like, compared to the game, they're spoon feeding stuff to us, which we don't need and also don't want. And then what you're spoon feeding to us doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So or doesn't work or doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know, man. And then it's like, yeah, we're gonna get Abby's point of view because it's 3 days earlier and day 1 for her. I'm just like,
and also
okay.
I hate them saying day 1.
Yeah.
Because, like, day 1 of what?
Yeah, of like the 3 days and 3 days before, or does her whole storyline only go for 3 days?
Apparently, what?
That's not what I thought was going to happen. I wanted to see like more of the before her dad gets killed and more of like the in between.
I expected it to pick up like maybe like when Ellie wakes up from the hospital.
Yeah,
and
something
it's
like
sometime
in
leading
between.
into whenever her friends start disappearing.
Yeah.
Like that being like the halfway point where it's like, wait a minute, where's Nora?
Where's Nora? Ugh. Anyways, that is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's.
It also apparently in the game, Ellie like never begs for her life, and she definitely did here. She was like, well, I don't know if she begged for her
She
life,
said,
but she was just
"Wait!"
like, wait.
Well, in this case, she's begging for Tommy's.
Yeah, that is true. But then Abby points the gun at her, so it's crazy. And she's like, wait. No. She does you said she does the Punisher thing.
She does. She so does.
She does. Yeah, that's really funny.
so funny.
Also, speaking of Abby and mentions of Abby, what's his name again? The bald guy. Beady. The wolf guy.
Isaac?
Yeah, Isaac. Anyways, he's like, apparently he's got something going on with Abby. I don't know what.
Apparently
I don't know if
he
it's...
seems very convinced that she's the person to take over for Wolfhut once he dies. And
Yeah, and we have been given no reason to know why.
yeah.
We're like, why? She's not a particularly great fighter. We don't know anything else about her,
Yeah,
so
the one
if she
time
has
we saw her
other
supposedly
skills,
make a plan, she stumbled into success there.
yeah, so what do you mean by that? And maybe there's an
Show me your pros and cons list. Who
yeah.
else? What other incapable people do you have on this base right now?
Right. I'm like, what do you mean by that? And so that lady was kind of valid, being like, do you like her? And because I'm like, what's the other reason for you to be like, yeah, she's gonna take over? What's happening here? I don't know. I'm interested to find out. Not because I'm excited to find out. I'm just very interested in why he would say that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So.
It's crazy. It's so crazy.
Well, I've also heard, I don't know if I should say this, but okay. I've also heard, so I get the complaints that Caitlin Dever's not bulky like Game Abby is. But apparently there's a storyline reason. Apparently she unbulks at some point because of something that happens to her. And it's supposed to be very traumatic in the game. But she's not bulky in the show at all. So if she's supposed to get unbulky, how's that going to look? And how's that going to work?
Interesting.
I mean, she's not quite skin and bones. They could do some CGI, or if she wants, she can lose a weight or whatever she wants to do, and to be like skin and bones. But like, I'm like, okay, that's interesting, story wise. I'm not gonna say what it is. I don't even know many details about it at all.
I don't even know what it is. So.
And I don't know how or why it happens to her. But I'm like, okay. Then maybe there's like, some more valid complaints there. So, oh well, we got what we got.
And I will say, I think that's probably about all my cons too, which unfortunately is most of the episode. And this is my least favorite episode of the entire show.
Me too.
No, and actually another point to add, we were watching the finale and like 30 minutes, no, not like 20 minutes in, I was like, guys, does it not feel like we're watching the finale to anyone else?
Our entire room was like, yeah, this does not feel like a finale.
It was very weird. It felt like there wasn't a clear thing it was building towards.
No.
Which, you know, obviously we found out what it was building towards at some point. But, you know, it felt like there was no, like, thing we were leading to. And it just felt so weird.
You know, maybe it would have felt more like it was leading towards something if you kept the brutality of Ellie, like, and you spent the episode of her, abandoning Tommy or making these choices where she's choosing violence over her friends and peace, and she's killing a bunch of people, and it's leading towards something. We're like, okay, she's killing a lot of people. Where is this going to end? And then it ends with her brutally killing Owen and Mel, and realizing Mel's pregnant. I mean, that would have been a really good point to just end the season there, of her being like, oh my God, what have I done? What has my path of violence led me to? But that doesn't happen here. So it's not building towards much. Or it's not doing it well, at least.
Yeah, it just...
Because what is it saying that she killed Mel? I mean, obviously she feels bad for it, or bad about it, but like, I don't know. It loses its emotion and its strength because she didn't mean to do it.
Yeah, it feels like it's almost like taking away the game's edge to try and make it more like general audience, but you have already lost so much general audience. If not because of the big thing you did at the beginning, like killing Joel, but by making everything else just so bland.
Yeah.
Like there's, like the middle is just so dead.
Yeah. And again, like the middle doesn't really even lead to much. Because what even really happens that matters to the overall story? Not much. I don't hate what I'm watching, but
looking
overall
back
story.
At season 1, and like a lot of that was them just traveling place to place to get to the Firefly facility.
Yeah.
And all of those mini adventures they came into and had. Like there's just not that here, and in replace of that would be Abby's storyline.
Yeah.
And they chose to just keep that completely separate, and I think this show completely suffers for that. And season 3 is going to suffer even more.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I wonder if there's going to be like a cool way. I've seen people do this with books, where when 2 books are taking place at the same time, they'll like do their research and figure out, okay, read the first 3 chapters of this book, and then the first 3 in this book, and then, go back and forth, like a tandem read, what we call it. I wonder if there could be a cool way to tandem watch once, obviously, all of season 3 comes out. then they can kind of figure out timelines where it would line up. And I wonder if that would make the watch any better.
I don't know. You'd have
I don't
to
know if
have-
I'm going to want to do that, though.
That seems like a lot, and they're doing not
So-
interesting stuff for so often. And like,
yeah.
it would be really weird to have like, oh, and Abby was secretly right around this corner, and they didn't know. And it's like, but why? Why would she be there?
Yeah.
Why would that happen? Like, you couldn't even do
Yeah.
that until like the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
I
like,
agree.
I mean, obviously they have to, because like, how the heck did Abby just know where they were?
Yeah. I
Crazy.
agree. That's another complaint is, how the heck did she find them so fast?
I would assume
Because they've been spending so much. I mean, I guess she knows the territory much better than they do, but
But like,
How
the
the heck
way
did you do that?
works, she would have had to have seen what happened at the thing,
mm-hmm.
and then immediately been following them back. Because you can't like
Yeah.
see them leaving, go in to figure out what happened, find out what happens.
There's
but then
just
again,
not enough
she doesn't
time.
think Abby did it, so she thinks that it was Jesse. Who
Oh
did
yeah,
it.
Ellie. She
Or
doesn't
Ellie.
think Abby doesn't think Ellie killed Melanoan.
Correct. So clearly she didn't see it happen, but then she went in, saw what happened, or like maybe I guess she had to like show up just soon enough to see them leave. It's
I don't know. That seems like another. Oh, Jesse just showed up right in time. Seems very convenient. And I know that confrontation happens in the game, but I wonder if there's a better explanation as to why she finds them so fast.
I don't know. It's another one of the things where it's like, oh, why are you here? Oh, because the writer said I had to be.
Yeah, it does. So I don't know.
And I don't know. Maybe that works so much better if we're just seeing their perspectives at the same time.
Right.
Whatever.
Could have just done, a 15 episode show. Anyone? 14, 15? No? I don't know.
So from here, I kind of want to talk about some of the things from the show. Just kind of let me know, like, if you think it worked or not for you.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think we'll start with the big swing here, Joel's death.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's something we saw coming.
Yes.
And then it happened, and it was very divisive. How did you feel then? I mean, obviously the viewers might know if they've been keeping up, but how do you feel about that now that the whole season has ended?
I don't know. I think it is undeniable that the show does suffer without him, but it's frustrating because I don't hate the idea of losing a fan favorite character, but then going on this journey of what that leads another fan favorite character into doing and what happens in her life because of that, and what led the killer Abby into doing what she did. And I feel like that's really interesting, but then it's frustrating because I don't feel like we're getting payoff for that because we're not getting both storylines, so it doesn't seem like we're getting a good journey into their lives. So it almost feels like it's wasting Joel's death and just leaving an empty, frustrating, sad feeling instead of being like, oh wow, like that's really powerful to explore what grief can do to a person before and after, like with Abby's like storyline connecting and then Ellie's going on. So I don't know. I didn't hate and just point blank that it happened. I was sad, obviously, but I hate that it doesn't feel like it's being filled with anything worthwhile. And obviously, if you listen to our episode, I did not like Abby's whole thing. That whole episode, I liked much better what happened in the game. But even then, I did come around, especially after you kind of talked about your point of view. I was like, okay, like then I look forward to hearing both storylines. But then that's not happening. So it's just frustrating because I'm trying to hold on. I'm trying to have like faith, and it's just not paying off. And
Yeah.
it's frustrating because you have the material that's not like this is an original story of like, well, we don't know what's going to happen. I'm just disappointed with where they went. It's like we know at least a little bit of what they're supposed to be trying to do, and they're just not doing it well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm obviously whenever it happened, I was obviously very sad that it happened.
Yeah.
But I was very interested, and I thought it was a very good jumping off point for what the season was supposed to become.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you know, I after 2 episodes of us still not seeing Abby, I was like, oh no, this is bad.
Oh no.
Oh no, oh no.
Oh no, 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 no.
Because we, like
Yeah.
we've been saying every episode since, you need to have us start seeing Abby
Yeah.
and seeing her as a character and not the villain.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a whole big part of like the second game
Mm-hmm.
in the idea that these are 2 very similar characters.
Yeah.
Because you're spending time to see how they're similar
Yep.
and about how like the whole statement of this being a cycle and them being like just polar opposites of the cycle.
Yeah.
And you don't get that by telling one story and then jumping into the others.
Yeah.
They have to be told concurrently, or else you don't care about the story by the point.
Yeah.
For Abby's side.
Yeah.
Because we've already seen where it goes and where it happened. And even in this show, they decided to tell us off the bat why it happened before anything else this season. So it wasn't even a mystery of why did she do that, which the
Yeah.
game had. So it's just so, like, you had material to work with,
Yep.
and then you just chose to go about it in like one of the weakest ways possible.
Yeah. And I really liked the episode and you know, or the scene with what she did to Nora, because I felt like it was adding to that commentary of violence and that cycle of violence. But it would have been so much more powerful with Abby's storyline. And then to do that and then go on and not have her be brutal with Owen and Mel, it seems like, okay, what's happening here? What are we doing here? Is Ellie brutal or not because of what Abby and her friends did? So, I don't know, man. And again, it kind of goes back a little bit to one of my complaints, is that it felt like not all of her friends were rooting for Abby as much as like Nora was, or maybe Owen was.
Or Manny definitely was.
Yeah, for sure. So, because in the game, it feels like they're all kind of on the same page of like, yeah, let's do this to Joel. And I feel like that also could have made the cycle of violence commentary more powerful.
Sure.
Is, yeah, this is what, you know, what Joel did affected all, like, this whole group of people. And then here's Ellie adding to that cycle of violence back to them. So, I don't know. It's just, it's frustrating, man. It's frustrating.
My next thing I want to ask, how do you feel about the flashbacks? Specifically, it was the last episode. How do you think the flashbacks fit into the overall season?
So, last week's episode I really, really liked. I feel like I still stand by it being my favorite episode of the season. Initially, I don't really mind that the porch scene was shown. I really liked the porch scene. However, I will be interested to see how if I feel the same by the end of the show, and see if, you know, if it would have been better towards that last scene.
Yeah.
But I don't know yet. I don't have that information, so all I can say is with what I know right now, I really liked it. And I will say, unfortunately, I do think it kind of really nailed in how important Joel is to the audience of the show. I'll be interested to see if there's like a spike in viewership there. I don't know.
A great question.
We'll see. Nielsen list.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
I love that episode. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, and I liked that it didn't feel like it was great to see him again. To me, it felt like he was here to like explain the lore. He wasn't here because we needed more Joel.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like if this was a stronger show, it would have just bled in with a lot more of a good show. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been as high of a high point. It still would have been a high point, but
Yeah.
you know, if everything was as strong as it could have been, then it would have been, you know, right next to some bangers.
I agree.
So, how do you feel about the Seraphite versus the Wolves subplot?
I feel like I know almost nothing about either side, and I would like to. So we'll see season 3
I feel like considering the
know.
amount of time we had to spend with them,
Yeah.
it is insane that I know as much as I do from like the third episode where we learned that these are two different people at war,
Yep.
and that's crazy.
That's it. Sorry, guys. I'm yawning already. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh.
No, it's like if you're going to spend the time to like make this so important, we gotta know something.
Yeah.
And you know what storyline would know something about all this? Abby's.
Abby! What?
So crazy.
That's,
I-
yeah.
And they had some great scenes. I still love that like interrogation scene with Isaac.
Yeah.
Amazing. But
The strung up scene when we see what the
Yep.
Seraphites actually do to them when they capture a wolf.
chilling.
Very
Love that.
chilling. That's also why I didn't like what they did to Ellie, because it's like we already know they're scary, and this scene, for me, didn't add anything to the
Especially
story.
because you know she doesn't get
Mhm.
like you know it. We know that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
We know.
Yeah.
We know.
It's like, yeah, there is a reason you cut it from the game, guys.
Yeah. Very very goofy.
Yeah.
But what else? I'll say, how do we feel about? Actually, I'm gonna jump in here, and I
Mhm.
want to talk about something I accidentally totally called
Uh-oh.
from
Oh,
episode
yes.
3.
Mhm.
You might remember from that episode. You probably
Yeah.
don't. But I made a joke where it's like one of the extras on that city council, like, is going
Right.
around talking about like, you know, I made a character choice with my character,
Mhm.
and my character choice was that I actually voted to let Ellie go with help from the community,
Yep.
and someone else that you think voted for her did not, and they're fake, and my character is a real one.
Yeah.
And that totally is canon now.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Because
I-
Jesse did not
Jesse's a
vote
fake
for them.
one. He's so
Mm-mm.
fake.
Yeah.
But, ugh. It's,
I
man,
know.
it's so funny that I called that, because that's such a random thing that I never thought they'd, like, have revealed or whatever. And then look where we are.
Mm-hmm. I
So,
know.
some other stuff. How do we feel about the Gale and the Eugene storyline overall?
Not great. I feel like it makes sense why Gale hates Joel. But I stand by the fact that I ultimately, regardless of how it was handled, I still think the indecision of not letting, what's his face, Eugene ride back to the camp with them, I think that was the right choice. Personally, I would have not risked it either. Sorry, Eugene. So, I'm sorry. And I don't think he was that particularly great of an actor, so I don't feel like he sold what they were trying to have him sell. So, I don't know. I feel like it was weaker than I was expecting. I was a little disappointed.
But how do we feel about Gale?
Oh, I still feel good about Gale. I like Gale. I like what she's done. I mean, she doesn't have a lot to do, because I don't think she's in the game at all. But I know Eugene's not. But I don't know. I don't know what she could possibly do in season 3, though. I don't think there's
I would
any
agree.
role for her in season 3. So it was small, but I liked her.
I think she brought a
That's it.
refreshing energy every
Yeah.
scene she had.
Yeah. I still love that scene between her and Joel, like the therapy session.
Mhm.
I still think that's one of the strongest of the show. So, yeah. I have a question for you.
Oh, go
I don't know
for
if
it.
you're done with your
No, go for it.
questions, but so if they were to still split it into season 2, season 3,
Yes.
but do more of the tandem storylines between Ellie and Abby, where do you think that middle point would be with the finale? In that case.
So, are we talking in season 3?
No, like in season 2, if they were doing the tandem storyline,
Okay.
but had to split it in half somewhere.
Ooh. Okay. Well, that's hard to say because I feel like the finale would probably be something on Abby's side.
Probably, we don't know that. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
that is harder.
mm-hmm.
But I mean,
Because it's hard because we know where their confrontation is and they don't have another one before that. And so it's not like the finale could be a confrontation between them.
correct.
So,
And I will say, I was
happened there?
surprised to see
Or maybe
that like the stuff with Mel happens right before the big showdown. I really
Yeah.
thought there would be like some time between all that.
Yeah.
So I was very surprised to be like, oh, cool. So here's the finale of the game.
Yeah.
Although I thought the finale of the game happened outside, but
Yes.
I don't know
Yeah.
how we
The
get there.
confrontation that happened here is not the finale of the game.
Oh,
I
okay.
can tell you that. Like,
Interesting.
not at all.
Very, very interesting on that.
Yeah.
So I would
So
say.
it actually still does feel like a halfway point in Ellie's story, which is fascinating considering we haven't done anything with Abby. So I don't know. I actually do sometime this summer. I want to watch the cutscenes, like the
I don't know.
full thing.
I do think that having this, and to reiterate, I don't know the pacing of the rest of the story at all.
Yeah.
But it did feel like the halfway point where it's like, cool, there's still Manny, all of the wolves,
Yeah.
and Abby to find.
Yep.
And there's that whole war with the Seraphites that you still have to get around to find her, and all of that. So it feels like this was still, like, I guess this was the finale, like, as far back as I think I learned that what happens to Mel around, like, episode 3 or 4. And I was like, that sounds like a great finale.
Yeah.
So I feel like I would still make this the finale, but I would just make the episodes a little longer so that, or
Yeah.
not the episode, the seasons a little longer so you can fluff both Abby and Ellie's stuff in there. And I would
Totally
cut
agree.
a lot of Ellie's stuff down.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even necessarily a lot of Ellie's stuff. I would cut down a lot of the fluff there.
Yeah.
And then, do we need to see all of this stuff with
The Seraphites and
and the
wolves?
wolf when we could be seeing it from Abby's perspective?
Totally agree. That's exactly what my answer was going to be, is I feel like this actually really is a good halfway point, but I want to see Abby's stuff too.
Yeah, but
I
it's
wanna
only
see
a
how
good
Abby
halfway
got
point when
here.
you're seeing the halfway of both stories.
Yeah. Because then maybe that's why they were going to do a season 4 and just have Abby catch up to her halfway point and then
So
finish
you-
it out in season 4.
So season 3 is going to take place over 3 days.
I don't
That
know.
would be insane.
Like, I don't know, man. I mean, I hope not at this point. I hope somebody tells them a firm no on
That would be
season
an even
4.
shorter
but-
season than
Right?
this season.
Right?
Like, even
it
if
would
you
be
have,
like 6
like-
episodes.
You'd have to have like at least 4 flashback episodes to make this match in like length.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be crazy.
I don't know. That is crazy. I
Ugh.
don't know, man. I'm
It's-
just
it's
imagining
messy.
what was in their heads for that, timeline wise, which is also crazy because I feel like timing wise, I've actually heard a lot of people say this season still felt like a lot of stuff was rushed, which is fascinating to me because we are still not close to the
It
end.
feels like not a lot's happened actually.
Yeah. So I'm like, really? Are you sure? Like, what do you mean? Is
It's
it
just a really boring game.
right? I was like, there's no way. It's, what are we possibly missing here? I don't know, but just another reason to watch the cutscenes. So.
Apparently. What's another thing? I want to say who. Okay, now we're just getting into some fun questions.
Okay.
So who is your favorite new addition to the cast this go around?
Gail.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I can't think of anybody else that I would. I mean, I guess Dina.
I would say
Oh
Dina.
yeah, Dina.
Although
forgot.
Gail, it's crazy that
She's
Catherine
like the
O'Hara's
one,
just
like-
such a force.
She's my favorite new addition that wasn't in the game.
Sure.
Yeah, and then Dina's gotta be the favorite
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
I was really hoping to get to Abby's side to like learn more about her ensemble.
Yeah.
'Cause I was so excited because they have such a talented cast working on that.
Mhm.
And
I hope they still keep that cast and just do like the 3 days before
Sure.
flashbacks or whatever.
honestly, I don't even get how you can film this season without like just like filming season 3 as well.
Yeah, and in which case, just release one big season.
It's very goofy.
I have to wonder why. Why? I don't understand.
What do you think was like the best scene of the show?
Oh gosh. Something in the flashback episode, probably. I want to say the best acted scene was definitely the porch scene for me. I loved the acting between those two actors in that scene. But then I also felt just so like happy about the astronaut scene. It was just so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I also really liked. You're gonna be shocked that I'm saying
Oh,
this.
gosh.
I really actually did like the Joel's guitar thing. Even though I've been a hater on all the singing, I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. I hate most of the time. I hate when people sing just like by themselves in movies and TV shows. Obviously, not musicals. I love musicals. That's way different.
Right.
Hey,
right.
because I know that they're gonna do it, and you know it's the genre. Okay, I know it's the movie is a musical. Anyways, I really did like Joel's whole thing with that, because also it's just so much context around it, knowing that he teaches her how to play, that he made and engraved that guitar that he's playing, and that's going to be gifted to her, and
I like
and
the
then
song
she
choice
sings
as
it.
well.
Yeah.
And the song is like it's talking about her. It's
Yeah.
also talking about like the context of losing his first daughter.
Mhm.
There's so much layers to that.
Yeah, and then knowing that later Ellie's going to use her guitar skills to sing to Dina.
To sing to Baby Mama?
Yeah. To sing to Mother.
To Mother.
Mother. Anyways, yeah, it's just great.
Great picks. I think the porch scene is something really special, and I think I totally agree on that.
Hmm.
Guitar scene.
If they're gonna get
also,
Emmys, like
I also
that's the
really
episode.
like the other guitar scene between Ellie and Dina.
so
I know
happy
you
for
don't like
you.
that, but I really like it, and I also really love that song.
You know, it's growing on me a little bit. Okay.
But some other moments I really love in episode 2, like
Mhm.
Abby falling into that pit of zombies and then like seeing it wake
Yeah.
up.
Oh, and then also when she's behind the fence,
Yes,
I was
that-
like gritting my teeth the whole time. I was so tense. It was
man,
crazy.
I'm so
That
sad
whole
they just kind of
episode-
ignored the idea that the zombies were getting smarter, because it just became
Yeah.
a nothing plot point.
Yeah.
I really hate that.
Again, it's like the zombies don't even matter in at least this season. And I think that's so disappointing, because they introduced such an interesting element and then just don't do anything with it.
Yeah, like you didn't even need to do that.
No.
It's a very interesting choice.
You make it seem like it's going to pose such a threat. And then, I mean, yeah, you get the whole wall episode, but then they won. So, where do we go from there?
Yeah, I also really like the Gail and Joel therapy scene. I think that
Yes.
one's still very
Great
iconic.
pick. Yeah. I thought about picking that one, to be honest.
I'm trying to think of some other strong ones. The Mel scene,
Mhm.
brutal, really
Mhm.
well acted. The Isaac interrogation scene, classic.
Mm-hmm.
I think the opening scene with Isaac and like meeting him for the first time was also very strong. Definitely some great picks. If I had to pick one, I'm gonna pick a different one, but I'm
Mhm.
definitely gonna pick the zombies waking up from the snow scene.
Yeah,
That
okay.
I think is one of the most unique things that this show, like, has done, and I
agree.
think they performed. Oh, it was just so good. But like, and that's more like in the production and everything of it. I think it just did
Yeah.
that so successfully, and like we were saying, the actors definitely act their asses off here, but the production
Absolutely.
is almost like
Mm-hmm.
the only like steady selling point for the show.
Yeah. The visuals of the production.
Yeah, so that's and it was just so chilling and disturbing. It was
Mhm.
it was so cool.
Love it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
any other
do you have any-
questions?
Yeah, I don't.
I don't think so.
Just kind of making them up as I go. Is there anything you would specifically maybe want to see in our next season? I know it's going to be centered
Mhm.
around Abby, but is there anything like specific you maybe don't know is going to happen that you'd like to see?
I would like to see why Isaac thinks Abby should take over. I remembered his name, the guy that is so intertwined with Abby. His name's Lev, I think.
Interesting.
Pretty sure that's his name. I would like to meet him and see what his deal is and why everybody is talking about him and what the heck he has to do with Abby's storyline. Why haven't we seen him, and all of the above.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, I just want to see what they do with Abby. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared about that, but I want to see what they do with it. I want to see, okay, maybe there's a reason they're making these changes to Ellie's character, can't imagine why, but let's see where they're going with this. So, yeah.
Okay.
But mostly, I want to know about Lev, and I want to know why Isaac thinks Abby should take over.
Yeah.
So, and just get more Abby in general and learn more about her. And
Mhm.
so, yeah.
Something and I know we've talked so much about how, like, uninteresting,
Mm-hmm.
like, maybe not even uninteresting, but how unexplained the wolf versus Seraphite thing is
Yeah.
in this season. I really want to see a flashback to when the Seraphites first happened, because,
Yeah.
you know, there's that hint that it's the person that was leading Seattle before Isaac
Yeah.
showed up.
Yep.
And so I'd love to see where that separation goes.
Mhm.
I want to see a scene between those two actors where it's like, I'm separating from you, here's
Mhm.
why, and now we're going to be starting a war for the rest of, presumably, our lives until we die.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like a very interesting conversation.
Fascinating. Mm-hmm.
And I think, I think there's a lot that could be packed into that with, like, community at the, like, caring about your community at the expense of anyone else just inherently.
Yeah.
And, like, the tribal mindset and how that relates today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they can, especially with those actors, I think they can have a really great scene there.
Mm-hmm.
I also really want to see some, like, specific things. Like, think Andor, where, like, that, like, he's about to go off on this mission, or, like, he's never going to see this person again, and, this is the last conversation they're going to have.
Yeah.
And stuff where it's like, what's going to happen next.
Maybe
I would
she has a
love stuff
conversation with
that
her dad.
Nora.
Yeah.
Or, like, some stuff where it's like, because we watched this season, the things that happen on Abby's side are going to, like, mean more somehow.
Yeah. I
I'd like to see
also
stuff like that.
happen to know who Mel's father is. Not father. Oh my god. Baby daddy. Who the baby's father is. And I want to
Oh.
see interaction between them. Let's just put it that way.
Very interesting.
So, yeah.
Scary.
Anyways.
Okay. Ooh, I do want to ask one last thing. So this season, on IMDb, what do you think is the highest rated episode of the season?
Is it still episode 2? Last I heard it was.
Look.
If not, I'm going to guess last
It
episode.
is. It is season 2, episode 2, Through the Valley, is at a 9.2 out of 10.
Okay.
And now, what do you think is the least rated episode?
Is it the finale?
Dare I say, it is not.
Oh. Gosh, then I'm going to have a really hard time differentiating from the other episodes then. 3, 4, 5. I know what happens in 6. Please tell me it's not 6.
It's not 6. No.
Or 1?
It is not 1 either.
Okay,
One
it's
is
one of
also-
the middle ones. 3, 4, and 5. 3 is the aftermath of the death and the town meeting. Then 2, they leave. And then Ellie tells Dina she's immune and sing guitar and all those things. And then 5, I think, is where that's where Jesse comes in. That's almost all I remember the whole episode. So I don't know. It could be like any of them. I'm guessing it's 3, 4, or 5.
It is episode 4, day
Okay.
1. That is
Okay.
the episode with the guitar scene.
Dang, okay. Wow.
You manifested that one.
I'm sorry.
But no, I am tempted to hardcore agree. That's the one where but we did find out that Dina was pregnant.
Yeah.
We did see the reveal that Ellie told her that she was immune.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's still some great. Oh, and that was even the scene where they were strung up and like sneaking around, very
Yeah.
video game style.
Yeah.
It's interesting that
I was
that
surprised.
I'm surprised that one's lower than the ones above and below. And
Especially,
actually, I'm
like-
surprised it didn't. It was lower than the finale.
Yeah. Well, especially because, maybe people didn't like the guitar scene, but that I've heard it's exactly like in the game. So, I mean, it's not like nobody knew it was going to happen. I don't know. That's
So-
very interesting to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe they were just mad that... Well, no, that's episode 4, not 3. So that's not even the aftermath of Joel's death. So
I don't know, man.
I have no idea. Whatever.
my next question is looking at the Emmy potentials here.
Oh, I think
What do
if
you
anyone
think?
has a chance, I fear it's only Pedro Pascal.
I don't. Probably.
I want Bella Ramsey to have a chance, though. I want a nomination at least.
Well, because she would be lead, and I think
Yeah.
with lead, there's definitely less competition than
Yeah,
like, supporting.
because White
Unfor-
Lotus is not going to be in lead, so that's out. I mean, you have Helly R
seems-
from Severance. You probably have one or two people from Pitt.
I don't know. Pitt kind of also comes off. I haven't
That
watched
is
it yet,
true,
but it
it's
gives
ensemble
off very
show.
similar to White Lotus in that everyone kind of seems to be ensemble.
I wonder.
I don't know yet because we haven't watched it, but that's
And
okay.
we still have a lot of shows. We have The Bears coming out, new season. We got some good leads there. See, I made the list down here. Ginny and Georgia. We're not going to do Ginny and Georgia.
I love Ginny and Georgia.
Well, not for Emmys.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, this is their year.
Right.
Anyways.
Right. Well,
I think
I
Pedro
don't know.
Pascal has a really big chance to win.
I don't know, because there's some really good competition for. I wonder if he's won before. And
Let me look.
if I remember correctly, Jeremy Allen White has won quite a lot for The Bear, from what I hear.
But also, unanimously, season 3
Was
not
pretty-
loved.
That is true.
It
It's so true. I wonder.
Let me
Okay,
see.
so I think somebody was talking about some weird cutoffs with The Bear season 3. I want to say The Bear season 3 is what's going to be nominated for this
I
year's
believe
Emmy,
so.
and then the one that's
Which
coming
is
out
why
in the
I think
summer
we don't need to worry about the Bear.
next year. Okay,
Maybe
that's true.
I think Napkin's directorial with
Yeah, mhm.
Ayo Edebiri.
But not lead actor.
I don't know if I think a lot of actors are going to get nominated.
Well,
Yeah.
definitely Adam Scott for Severance, and then definitely the main guy in The Pit, from what I hear.
Sure.
And then
You know who needs to get a supporting actor nom? Milchak.
oh, absolutely.
Oh my god, if he did. I don't know if
He-
he won it before, but he definitely needs to be in that dang conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't care that the White Lotus cast is going to be in supporting. I still think Milchek would, well, at least very much deserve a nom, and I think he would have some pretty good competition there. Like,
Ooh.
I don't think he would just be out of the running. I
So
think he would give them a run for their money.
Pedro Pascal did not win. I actually think he lost it to someone from Succession. I want to say.
Oh, okay.
I think he lost
Maybe
it.
Adam Scott?
What
Or
was
something
him?
else?
The one who's going to be in the Hunger Games movie.
I forgot. Someone's in Severance and Hunger Games?
No.
Oh,
Succession. and
Succession.
Hunger Games,
Oh,
the
Kieran
brother.
Culkin.
Kieran Culkin. I think he won it
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes
instead.
sense.
And Bella
though.
Ramsey was nominated. I want to say. I kind of hope she gets nominated. I think it's going to be Akko
Really
Taco
do.
if she doesn't.
Yeah.
And she's definitely like making this a watchable show.
Yeah.
She's like willing it to be watchable.
Yeah.
So I would hate to see her get shut out.
Mhm.
But some wins came from Storm Reed as a guest star in a drama series.
Her.
There was Nick Offerman as a guest actor in a drama
Mhm.
series. Great wins, great picks.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if they had any other wins. A lot of nominations. They won for outstanding sound mixing.
They might get something, or at least a nom for like visual effects or something with all
Prosthetic
those
makeup, for
Yeah,
sure.
all the makeup.
Standing
Mhm.
main title
Yeah.
design.
For that wall episode.
Yeah, visual effects. I think this will win a lot of craft categories.
Yes.
Actor-wise, I think those are the only
Well,
two
scared.
we'll really see. I would love to be... Oh, guest star? Maybe Gail.
I don't
know if she's...
think she counts because
I
it's more than one
know.
episode.
Why would you do that to her?
I
Let her be a
know.
guest star and get her chance. That's
Well,
the reason to be here.
Same with Sam Rockwell. Like
Yes.
he would have.
That's so true.
He would have easily won. Oh my gosh! I can't believe they put him in another episode. I can't believe they would do that to him.
That's so bad.
Wild.
Doing them dirty.
I mean, there's no competition if he was in one episode, but that's crazy. That Emmy conversation is gonna be very fun when we get towards it.
Yeah, I like
Also.
that. I'm so much more caught up on this conversation than I have
Last
before.
year, yeah, and we're getting towards being able to watch The Pit. Okay, we're getting towards it.
We
so.
got through the first season of The Summer I Turned Pretty.
The first
Ironically,
summer
also the first
of-
summer.
Yeah, the first summer of the season I turned ready. Right. Yeah. Listen, he could say whatever he wants about that, but all three of us watching that show, bawling by the end.
Hey, I
So-
am a Susanna stan. You got me there, show.
Yeah. So I can't say season 2 is less cringy because it is. It's just as cringy.
Man, I
Let's
don't-
say that.
The thing is, I don't know if I've ever like physically cringed as hard at this show. I can't even think of the last thing I've cringed that hard at. At least like against
listen.
the interest of the show. Like I've cringed whenever it's like,
Right.
look at this horrible thing that's happening, but
Mhm.
I don't know if I've cringed as hard as I have at a show where it's like trying to say something with its chest, and it's just like, no, if that happened in real life, you would be a friendless loser. Why? Why are you doing this? And no
You're
one's
like-
acknowledging that.
You're
It's
so
crazy.
tense just thinking about it. It's so funny right now.
It's painful. It's actually painful.
Okay, but so he's watching it because I'm forcing him to rewatch it with me because the third season and final season, you'll be glad to hear, is coming out in July.
I will say I'll be happy to be caught up, and I
and
will
only
say
watch one a week.
We've gotten to the point where I'm like okay watching it.
Okay, that's good. That's
it only
good.
took a whole first season.
Hey, it was only 7 episodes, just as much as The Last of
It's
Us.
only 7. How much is in the next season?
8. Just one more. It's fine.
God.
It's fine.
Okay.
It'll be okay.
And
And then we'll watch The Pit. So
then we will watch The Pit.
yeah. Although Ginny and Georgia is coming out soon, but we might watch that separately
that'll be
since
a
it's a binge. Yeah. So,
Oh, so.
anyways, yeah.
Anything else to add before we wrap up our conversation on season 2 of The Last of Us?
I don't think so. I think we said everything. So
Alright, well.
it happened.
That being said, it did happen. Indeed,
Yeah,
it
it's over
did.
for now.
It's like the winter I turned infected.
No.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I am your host, Luke.
And I'm your other host, Alicia.
And thank you guys so much for having this little chat with us. Please let us know what you thought of The Last of Us Season 2. Did
Yeah.
you stop watching? If so, I'd be very interested to hear where your dropping point was.
Yeah.
And what do you think Season 3 is going to look like?
Yeah.
You've heard we have a lot of thoughts on that, so please let us know. We'd be fascinated to hear what you guys think. So
Yeah.
until the next time, take care.